Good morning, afternoon, and evening. Welcome back to the Liberal Artist Podcast. As always, I'm your host, Bodio. With me, I have Kaylie Horowitz.
Hello.
And Andy Gibby Gibson.
Hello.
We're, at least I am, we're a low energy pod today, y'all. So
we're dragging you into this pit of chaos with us right now.
January felt like 2 months, so it's a rough start, but we're trying to get by, you know?
Hope everybody's ready to have like a chill experience, a little ASMR. Hey, it's me.
Or maybe you're ready for zany and wacky.
Welcome to the podcast.
I want to try the quiet voice.
Yeah, go for it.
You're feeling relaxed right now.
Jesus. Okay. you know, I saw that coming. And I was like, surely he wouldn't do the obvious.
Surely we're above this.
Surely he wouldn't do the most obvious option. You have underestimated me, Bodio.
I have. That's on me.
You fool.
You have underestimated the wacky. It's always here, lying dormant in wait.
Oh, speaking of lying dormant, how did everybody celebrate Groundhog Day?
Oh, okay, that's a good transition. That was good. I was a little scared.
That was real good.
That was real slick of you.
I forgot it exists, and I went to work, and then they told me the groundhog died, and I was like, yeah, okay.
What?
Okay. So here's what I know. Punxsutawney Phil, the actual groundhog
you didn't say words.
He's an immortal weather cryptid.
Okay, we all know that they replace him like the classroom hamster every 2 years, Kaylie. What I'm saying
they
is
say they replace him every 2 years, like the classroom hamster.
I've never seen the Punxsutawney Phils in the same room at the same time.
How do we know that Punxsutawney Phyllis isn't in on this cover-up? I'm telling you, she has the same husband her entire life.
You've got me there, but Punxsutawney Phil, our most reliable meteorological source nowadays, saw his...
No, he didn't see a shadow.
He didn't see a shadow, which means spring is coming early. Coincidentally, on the same day, apparently a groundhog in Kentucky died. I think that's the story that I heard, to which I thought, okay, why is it newsworthy that a groundhog in Kentucky died?
Yeah.
But then I thought deeper about it.
Okay.
What if, to preserve Punxsutawney Phil's immortality...
Oh, we need a groundhog sacrifice.
It's a soul for a soul, and you never know, if it's going to be you. It's like the Thanos snap, but for, small critters.
No!
It's like Shao Kahn, Punxsutawney Phil just shows up to another. Your soul is mine.
Every small rodent across America fears February 2nd.
Because
the soul's mine!
Punxsutawney Phil is coming for another rodential soul. Pray it's not yours.
Pray it's not yours.
Maybe the groundhogs will unite and take him on, and it just becomes a World of Warcraft raid or something like that on a tiny little scale.
Ooh, who's the orcs? What rodent is the orcs?
I'm given. I feel like muskrat is the real. They're real scrappy. And it's kind of the same ideal of we don't know exactly what the lifespan of an orc is. It's just that they normally die before their natural lifespan. So theoretically, this is my favorite quote of all media. Orcs are basically the lobsters of the fantasy world. We don't know how long they can actually last. They just usually get killed beforehand.
No, that's good.
I think the muskrat is the equivalent, because the only time I ever see one of those is either on the side of a road, rotting out, or on some hillbilly's dinner plate. There's
how many
no
hillbillies are you going to dinner with, Gibby?
You don't know my life.
I don't. That's why I asked.
What goes on in Maryland?
Some things I have to keep private, Bo. Some things are just Gibby time.
Not going to dig any deeper into that.
Wait. What's the elf rodent?
The elf? Are we talking Santa elf or high elf?
High elf. Santa elves are basically gnomes.
Definitely squirrels or something. Something we know is gross, but people think is cute. So
I feel like the squirrel is the human of.
I was gonna say squirrel's a human. I think. Oh goodness.
It's those mice with the big ears that they based
guinea
all those
pigs?
children's. Guinea pigs are more like the dwarves of the rodent world.
Well,
They're stout and stocky.
Yeah, like, but I was gonna
and
say
act
possums.
drunk.
Possums.
They're agile. They can hang from trees easily. Like, they have those nice prehensile tails.
They're a lot cuter than people give them credit for.
Yeah.
So I would
Are
almost...
elves cuter than people give them credit for?
Elves are beautiful.
Are we talking?
Possums.
Here's the thing: are we talking Santa elves? Are we talking D&D elves? Are we?
We've
talking,
established Santa elves are gnomes.
Or are we talking like lame ass Tolkien elves?
I think I don't think elves can be the possums because like they're unapproachably like gorgeous to the point where it's like unappealing.
That's a token elf if I ain't never heard of one.
Elves are chipmunks.
Elves are chipmunks. All elves are chipmunks, not the other way around.
Which rodents are racist? That's what the elves are gonna be.
Beavers.
Raccoons?
No, raccoons. No.
Raccoons are cool. They're like hobbits.
They're very communal. Like, we're in this together. We're digging for garbage, but god damn it, it's our trash.
Okay, all right. So the dwarves should be the beavers, right?
Beavers are fucking like you have running water? Fuck you. No, you don't. It's ours now.
They build a dam, Bo. That's what they do.
So the beavers
the
are
idea of running water,
colonists.
They are instinctively driven
They're engineers.
to dam it up.
They're engineers, goddammit, and we should respect that about them.
Beavers see a river is like, what if I manifested my destiny on top
I could
of this?
stop that.
I could
just
control
cut that
this.
off.
God wants me to do this.
God,
Order must be established. I don't know.
God commanded me to sell you this crypto and build this dam. Y'all haven't heard about that? Have you not heard about the pastor that was ordained by God to get people in his congregation to buy into this stupid ass crypto? And then just point blank admitted that he just did that?
I thought we were talking
that
about
came into this is like gone now.
I thought we were talking about beavers selling cryptocurrency.
No, this is all I've heard about for
this
whole week was this pastor that like convinced people in his congregation to buy into this fucking holy quote unquote crypto because God told him to.
See, this is the theory, right? Because that story was put out by big Punxsutawney Phil, so nobody would see him soul snatch another rodent.
We got distracted in the media. He did it again.
He did it again.
Phil.
Big Phil at it again.
No.
The Big Phil lobby, and it's just all those guys with the stupid top hats. They're the shadow government.
They intrigue me so much. They have the language of Haganese that only they know to communicate with Phil.
You know people can lie, right?
No, they can't. That's illegal.
And they say white people don't have culture.
You don't want to know what goes on in Philadelphia.
Look, all you need to know is that
or Philadelphia,
Groundhog
Pennsylvania,
Day,
either way, fuck
they're
it.
the same thing.
They both start with P. Wait, Philadelphia, Punxsutawney, Pennsylvania. It's all connected.
It's all connected. All you need to know is there's only one way to celebrate Groundhog Day, and that's to watch Groundhog Day with Bill Murray, because that shit still slaps. It's still just like a masterful comedy. It fucking rules, dude. It just rules.
The film guy going off about a film he likes, and the other two people in the room are like, "Yeah, cool.
Watch the movie. It's too good to miss."
I've seen Groundhog Day many times. Ha ha ha. But I just think of I think it was a couple years ago, the Super Bowl commercial that borrowed Bill Murray to do that, but then made it a Jeep commercial where he's like, "Oh, this is different," just driving around in this fucking Jeep with the groundhog. I'm like,
everything we love will be owned by the car commercials eventually. This is the reality of our dystopian world.
Obey your auto overlords.
Everything you love will belong to Toyotathon one day.
We all become Toyotathon.
We all are the Toyotathon.
Not me. You're gonna see Mia in a Kia for life, baby.
How long have you been holding on to that one?
It's coming up on 9 years now.
Good job.
Jesus.
Good job.
I love my fucking Kia Soul, dude, and nobody can say shit about it.
And you know what happened to Kia? Those 2 hamsters, they got filled. They got filled.
No, the Kia hamsters.
The Kia
Wait,
hamsters, the
no!
dancing hamsters, they got filled.
What fantasy elven race are the hamsters? We need to cover that. What are the hamsters? I'm thinking the hamsters are like naturally like halflings or something.
Are we talking
tracks.
hamsters in general or specifically the Kia hamsters?
Okay, so
Because I think specifically the Kia hamsters, those things are omniscient, dude. They cannot be defined by a single
they're
race.
beyond, but
Yeah.
they're also addicted to like hype beast and
exactly.
like supreme clothing.
You throw out
It's
some
the old-
Nikes and some Beats and that's how you summon
You have to
them.
make an offering.
Nikes, Beats, and a wedge of cheese.
They would own all of us if like they didn't see like what came out at the Met Gala last year and got distracted.
Damn.
They're elder beings with the attention span of like a 14-year-old.
So American Gods.
Yeah.
Hell yeah, baby.
Hell yeah.
Coming this summer on FX. I'm pretty
They
sure
already
that's
made a
show.
series, I thought, of American
Fuck.
Gods.
I think that you're right.
They already
You're right.
did
Maybe
that.
another season. Maybe another season.
All right.
Alas.
Okay,
Hard.
now I'm ready to be chill because I think I got a lot of that out.
You got it
did
all
you?
out. We talked about rodents enough for you.
Yeah.
There is no chill because we're talking about cringe media.
Kinda cringe.
Fucking cringe, bro.
You know who else
You-
is cringe?
You know what else is cringe? My entire fucking life.
I was waiting. I was in the shower thinking about like when is the next time we're gonna do a Muscle Man reference, and now it has been 0 days since a
Get the
Muscle Man
whiteboard out,
reference.
change it to 0
Get the
days.
whiteboard out, scratch it out, wipe it off. I was just like, I'm gonna find a way to shoehorn Mitch back into the pod. It's the first Mitch of 2024.
It's my Mitch in a pod.
It makes me so.
You know
happy.
who else is in a pod?
Kaylee.
All right, now it's out of me. The demon's been
For
exercised.
now.
Always dormant.
Kaylee, introduce the
Yeah.
topic for us, please.
So, because I could not convince and or force my friends to watch season 1 of Has Been Hotel
No.
as an episode of this podcast, maybe someday. But
Nope.
having just watched it, and as someone who is in their late 20s watching this piece of media going, man, 13-year-old me would have been like unquestionably obsessed
Mhm.
with this. Thinking about like we talk about like, oh, this is cringe, that was cringe, or cringe is dead, do whatever you want. Like there's lots of conversations about like that idea in fandom spaces. But what I was kind of curious about was honestly not like how do you define this is or isn't cringe, but is there an idea that as you become aware of the world, you're no longer a child just placated by watching Playhouse Disney and Nick Jr. or PBS Kids, whatever it is that your parents direct you towards to occupy your time. And if it's YouTube Kids, God help you.
Bless the children, for they are lost.
Yeah. But once you'll become a little more aware of what you're consuming as a human being. Like you're reading books in school, or you found something fun in the library, you've seen a movie or a TV show that's piqued your interest. Is there a sort of rite of passage of being unabashedly interested or attracted to media that is cringe, and maybe you don't realize that as a child and you come back to it years later and realize that? Or I don't know, what is the journey of cringe as you discover media, you discover yourself, and is something as taste change able to move past being cringe and you reinterpret it in a way that it's not? Or is it just damned eternally to just make you shudder remembering how obsessed you were about something?
I think we also need to define it in this context, like before we move any further.
Sure.
In that we're not talking about cringe in like I did something embarrassing, in like the 10th grade, and when I close my eyes, those memories play forever.
We don't have time to unpack that today.
No. We've all got that shit going on. But like, I think we're talking about more specifically media that like you thought was really good or really cool, usually at a younger stage in development, and you go back and watch it and you go, oh no, it was not good.
No.
Or more specifically, like then like just like, this movie sucks, that's lame.
Yeah.
I think the most visceral kind is when something is done in complete sincerity or produced with complete like vulnerability and honesty. And I mentioned this before the pod, but like when it's those factors and it's ridiculed and like brought to light, like, oh, this is awkward, written in such a way that it makes people uncomfortable, yada yada yada. I think that's really what we're going for with this specifically. For example, basically any Sonic property.
Hey man, go fuck yourself.
Look,
whoa! Am I being attacked right now? Excuse me?
Yeah. No, this
We
is
gotta
a
put our
self-attack
cards
too.
on the table.
Look,
what was your cringy fandom?
No. Like, this is not just like, I'm super down to rock out to some fucking dumpster garbage rock from the early 2000s and like Sonic Mania, like certified GOAT.
Crush
Like,
40
I'm
defined
here
me.
for that. I'm talking
The
specifically
games were
about
hit or miss as far as like this is actually peak art or this is cringe, but the music has always been banger.
But that's not even what I'm thinking about. What I'm thinking about is the fact that I watched multiple Sonic TV shows.
Sonic Underground is sick.
Sonic
No, I'm joking. It's not good.
I know. Sonic Underground is, in my mind, acceptable for what it was at the time, especially being a 90s cartoon.
Sure.
It's a 90s cartoon. Like, you kind
Yeah.
of wave it off.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about things like Sonic GX, Sonic X, as well as I read the fucking comics, man.
Oh,
I
you
was
are committed.
deep in it. This is true vulnerability. This is the deep dark parts of my soul, man. Like, I knew the side characters' backstories.
Damn.
The ones that are not even in the fucking games.
Yeah.
And I thought this was peak fiction.
Yeah. So are we referencing cringe only in the rear view, or identifying something in like modern day, like identifying something new as cringe?
I think we can identify it so much easier now that we're adults,
Right.
and
You've
have
had that
the
experience.
tools.
You had that soul-crushing moment of going,
Yeah.
this isn't peak fiction? What?
Yeah. Yeah. The moment you realize that something isn't the greatest anime of all time.
Pretty much.
But I think like if it's intentional cringe, like I'm going to come forward and say I'm pretty sure most of Evangelion is intentional cringe. Like I think the media, a lot of it,
the end
a
of
lot
it,
of it,
the end
of it, the end of it for certain. We don't
Maybe
need to
not
talk
the
about it
middle.
any further. But we know. But like I feel like that's the authorial intent. It's when you get the vibe that the authorial intent is, isn't this the fucking coolest thing you've ever seen? I say as I almost slip into a Sonic voice right there.
You're too slow.
Stop
and
it.
I'm I think we have so much better like understanding, and like we have the tools to identify like when does it become cringe.
Yeah.
I
So we hinted on this, but it's definitely like an age thing, right? You get life experience, you realize that there are cooler things in the world than a dude in all black with red eyes and white hair.
Or like the
staring
idea
into
of
the moon.
nuance
Yeah.
embraces you at a certain point. Because I remember going through like Kingdom Hearts. Oh boy. And I still have a soft spot for
Same.
that franchise.
But also,
I never did. That fucking thing can go fuck itself. Sorry, folks.
Damn. Gibby's out here kicking me and Bo to the curb.
Yeah, fuck the
Jeez.
keyblades. Fuck those big ass shoes.
Damn.
Fuck like Nording a boy. Fuck it all.
You Norda boy.
Hating
But
on my man's size 13s.
I will see that kingdom fall.
I remember having such a experience as a young teenager because so much of that game deals with the light, the darkness, the light,
Angst.
the darkness. And I would read into other media or literature anytime the word light or dark in this heaven or hell kind of there's such a human fascination, and maybe it's the Judeo-Christian downfall pit spiral we're currently going into as a culture, but God, there's such a fascination of just these broad concepts of the light versus the dark.
Well, objective
and
good
then,
versus
I
objective
don't know,
evil,
but then it's not. You
Yeah,
can
no.
either
In,
get
an
deeper with
anime
it or
way.
not is
Yeah.
the thing, and sometimes you have to move into that nuance of getting deeper and learning. Oh, but where do the differences or the similarities in that space overlap, as opposed to just the broad category? And then once you know that, you look back and go, "Oh, that was just really broad and basic, and we didn't really say anything here, actually."
But
Yeah.
it's presented with such melodrama that it's meant to hook you in, which for millions of people it very much did. I definitely shouldn't be oh, you shouldn't like that thing, and I'm not going to be you shouldn't like that thing.
Yeah, no.
I'm just going to say fuck that thing. That's my personal opinion.
That's not about whether it is or isn't cringe. Just, you know what? Fuck this.
Yeah, I mean, what it comes down to is everybody has the right to enjoy something.
Yeah.
It's just that I am, I don't know, I'm also entitled to my opinion of that's oh buddy, this thing it's tough because it's I don't want to judge, but
Yes.
also it's so fun to judge. It's so fun to criticize and to give in to that urge of just I'm going to call it cringe. It gives me power to call something cringe because it makes me feel better despite the fact that all of the things I like are stupid.
When you're in the trenches, I think as a teenager, learning what you like and learning the kind of stories that interest you, that is such a impulsive out, is to start calling your friends cringe or stupid for the things that they like, because oh boy, I had so many friends that were Homestuck fandom kids.
I still
and
don't know what that is.
It's best you don't,
need
Bo.
to. Just
Okay.
run away at all costs.
I've seen it like Rome burning on the horizon, and I just went, I
Yeah.
don't want to be involved in that.
And there are people, and that's the other thing, is that when there are people in a fandom that cause problems on purpose and make everyone look bad, then there's infighting. But then for people in other fandoms, and when Tumblr was a thing, rest in peace, being in a different fandom, but watching other fandoms burn their own house down in some ways, being able to sit there and go, at least we're not like them. It creates kind of rifts and further feeds that fire of all fans of this thing are X, and you don't want to be that. Versus out of context of that kind of community, I feel like there's less pressure to actually pursue something regardless of, is this quality writing and or storytelling?
So
I don't know.
Do you think it comes of a place of people really trying to identify with a certain piece, and then other people saying, I don't see it, or I don't want to see it?
Explain.
When I think of specifically stuff that would make me use the word cringe, the two fandoms I most associate with it, unfortunately, are Undertale and Steven Universe.
Yeah, those.
But mostly
Gibby.
because, right? The reason why, Gibby get fucked on.
Hey, I haven't watched Steven Universe, and you're the one that introduced me to Undertale, fucker.
I did.
And
I played that game once. I had my fun, and then I got out. A lot
We're
of
all
man.
going under the bus together.
I'll admit that I'll listen to some of the remixes of the music, but I'm not the one of the folks who has gone and witnessed all of the DeviantArt comics about the alternate universes.
But the reason why I think those two stick in my mind so much as these are groups of people who found each other in internet spaces and really expounded on, is because they're on top of being nerds, especially in the Steven Universe space. It's a lot of queer kids.
Yeah.
A lot of kids with body image issues.
It's very drama kid friendly.
Yeah. And it became cringe by them. I how do I explain this? Y'all remember that one song, All About the Bass?
Yeah.
Where it was about that one lady making fun of skinny people, and the way they empowered herself was by making fun of people who didn't look like her, even though her whole thing was she didn't get made fun of. It was a lot of that energy from specifically from the Steven Universe community. Undertale community just didn't have anybody to latch onto, so they just
Undertale just kind of went into a spiral and decided Sans was a sexy man.
Yeah,
well,
Undertale weirdness.
Undertale, I think the biggest thing is that the creator had no intention to become for it to become as big as it was. And he was like, this is just filling like a small niche, and I'm having fun making basically
I just wanted to make a silly
parody.
little game. Yeah.
And because like people latched onto it in such great numbers, I think it's that like power of the internet to connect people that would never get the chance to like meet in real life. Like to feel part of a community, because like that is very important, like so that you don't feel alone and you don't feel ostracized and weird. But at the same time, the insular nature of things like fandoms can breed new kinds of weirdness, such as the Sans sexy man, as well as like assuming that everybody you know will enjoy Undertale. Like I recall the first big incident that I noticed was game FAQs, the classic, the absolute classic through childhood, helped me out a lot. It hosted its like greatest game of all time. For some reason, they decided to determine that in like 2015 for God knows why. They had a huge poll and tournament and everything, and a ton of Undertale fans like flooded the thing, and basically everybody else who either was neutral or already disliked it was like, take your fucking cringe game and get out of here. How dare you disrespect Ocarina of Time, you emo little bastards. Meanwhile, fellas, let it go. Ocarina is not the greatest of all time anymore. Just let it go, buddy. Just time progresses in a linear fashion. You must learn to let go.
You must learn to let go. You're still holding on. Let go.
Like I think like it comes back to that, like, this is something that is unabashedly ashamed of itself, which can be a very good thing. But god damn it, if like I don't think about a lot of experience as a theater kid, especially Alexander Hamilton. I because that's a double whammy is the thing.
Shit.
Like there's elements of that play that are already deserving criticism, as well as the fact that you have a creator rather than a Toby Fox who's just kind of a chill little guy.
He's just a little dog.
You have a little man. You have a Lin-Manuel Miranda who is doubly positive than like the normal theater kid who's just like, good morning everybody on Twitter, which is already like the wrong place to try to be like really, really peppy. Good morning everybody, you're all stars, you're gonna shine so bright in the sky. Like I think it's a double whammy of that, and like realizing, hey, maybe this show isn't as progressive as we thought this show truly was.
Yeah, no, like it did have a like hype period of 2 years, and then suddenly in 2019, and I think like right when they announced that we were going to get a pro shot, and then when it came out like in 2020, that was sort of the turning point of people going, you know,
the discourse.
Actually,
do you think that happened because it exploded in popularity? Because it was already a mega musical, and then 2020 happened, and all of a sudden, everybody. I had people who don't even watch movies be like, "Hey, have you ever seen Hamilton?" I'm like, "Yeah, fuck you for asking."
Yes, fuck you.
Against my will, there were people in the green room that were like
Oh,
pinning
yeah.
me to the couch, just like, look at it. Look at
2015,
it.
2016,
Kaylie.
we couldn't go anywhere in that building without somebody just like blaring that
Madam,
soundtrack somewhere.
You were part of the problem.
Oh, I was. I certainly was. And I had a Hamilton star painted on the inside of my locker. I will admit that.
Yeah.
But
I'll admit, at a
I-
Friday Forum, I performed a song with a guitar, an acoustic guitar at that. We all
Ooh.
grow and we all change.
Yeah.
But Kaylee,
No,
you're
but
saying.
I think there's something kind of a double punch, I think, of this research, like something comes out and it has its like initial followers and then they bring more into the cult of whatever it is.
Mhm.
And that's just how fandoms work. But I think there's a question of once it comes out and like you make some tweaks or adjustments or you write a book and then you add a second and a third and a fourth, like you build out
Yeah.
your series, whatever. But that's always a new thing. You're building on an existing world, or you make a game and you add updates, you do a couple of tweaks, you give it a DLC.
Yeah.
But something like that, when you're just being given the same thing back to you again, it's not new, but it's somebody is now deliberately trying to drum up the hype. I feel like something about that reinvites like speculation now to the thing, as opposed to just, sure, I'll experience this because I don't know what it is, but I'm interested perhaps. Now you know what it is, what those people are like, even if you don't know the full context of the thing, you know roughly perhaps what it's about. But you now get to re-examine it and start asking questions that maybe you didn't before because you were just sort of caught in the hype, or there wasn't that insight from other people because nobody had experienced it yet, so nobody knew where to start asking.
Mm-hmm.
That I feel like starts inviting people to poke more holes in the thing. Because, 2020, after that, Hamilton was no longer cool. It had a good run of being the, like, it girl
You made your money,
on
you
Broadway.
had your time in the sun.
And then people
Move
went,
along.
actually, you know what? No.
But again, I think we're kind of burying the lead with time being a factor, right? Because
Right.
I have to push back on the idea that Hamilton wasn't huge in 2020. I think in, like, theater spaces, we had enough
Sure.
time. There had been 5
We've been
years,
seeing
so
it
we
day in, day out.
exactly. So we had the time and the clear-eyedness. I don't know words.
Mhm.
Fuck you.
We took the rose-colored glasses off.
Exactly. We took the rose-colored glasses off, and we were able to step back and be like, "Hey, here's all the weird stuff about this thing we've been talking about for the last like 6 years."
Yeah,
I
thank
know
you
all
everybody
y'all-
else for catching
Yeah.
up.
I know all y'all just got on the train. Now that you're paying attention,
Yeah.
take a look at this.
I think there's like another element of it, like that's kind of baked into the time aspect of it. In that
Time plus what?
It's time plus loyalty is what I'm going to say. I
Mm.
think something we haven't talked about with these like fandoms. Well, we talked about it a little bit with Undertale. Is undying, unquestionable loyalty, because if something is so integral to your experience and like a canon event, like you get a significant amount of people. You get a significant amount of people who like swear by this and push it on you to say, hey, you would love this. What they really mean is, I love this and I think you should too.
Or I want you to love this as much as I do.
So that we can talk about it now.
Nobody saw Kaylee post up like she did. She looks like she was about to bust through the screen, man. That was intimidating.
I've done
Mom
this
said
song
it's
and
my
dance.
turn to pick the movie.
I've done this song and dance before. I know exactly what you're talking about. This is what me and my little dumbass friends in high school did when we were like anime weebs. This is how we would just like bully each other into being like, I found a weird new sexy man anime and I need other people to talk about it with.
And I bet that the average citizens of my high school would also enjoy this. So did you fall in love with me the first time, or do I need to Naruto run past you again? So like I think with that time you get like those people on the subreddits and on the Tumblrs who are just like, this is it. This is the thing that we swear by. And you give enough time for like the general populace to catch up, And oftentimes there's that like sometimes small but like eventually growing voice of dissent. That is very much what happened with Hamilton, because you still have a lot of people in Hamilton's Continental Army that are willing to like throw down for it. And you get a louder and louder voice of not just is your material and your media cringe, but the way that you're acting right now is awkward and uncomfortable, and socially you're breaking all of the rules
and this
right
is
now.
something that I think kind of goes in that loyalty thing, because what you mentioned before about media that is produced or created or written in such a way that you can so clearly see the drive, the passion, that it is an authentic piece of art, an authentic show
seriously.
of work. Well, even if it's not seriously, that you can tell whoever made this felt so strongly about this. Like, this is like as unbridled, like moved from its vision as possible, authentically made by someone.
Yeah.
And people who are also unafraid to be authentically interested or authentically love it. But there's a question of, are you being too authentic, or is this
what's
not
socially acceptable?
Right? Is it that, or is it no? You're actually not being authentic. You're performing, and that is now making it cringy to be around or to be a part of.
But I also think there's a degree of, if we're talking about authenticity and time, I think there's a degree of, I'm making something that I would have thought was cool when I was 14. I think of a lot of these like new Disney shows that have been coming out, like Gravity Falls and Owl House and the Frog one, where me as a 30-year-old man is watching, like, this is whack as hell. But I know if I was 11 or 12, shit would be tight, you know?
Not Gravity Falls, though. We're all clear that Gravity Falls
is
right?
cool. It's fine.
Yeah. Honestly, I'd still put Owl House into that category too. Amphibia, I'm like, I could go either way on that one of like, I'm into it, but also I'm like, I don't know. But certainly 12-year-old me would have been like, whoa, epic storytelling mode. But no, there's a very specific way, I think, that you move something out of that, like, I don't even want to say like a tier down, but like it's something in that it may or may not be cringy, but there is something that is both like childish in its naivete or honesty that is simultaneously adult, or at least like understands consequences of reality, stakes of storytelling that make it interesting or dramatic. Like that combination of things, I think, can make something less cringy and more, actually I can enjoy this at whatever age I come into it at, whether that's like Gravity Falls, I think even Adventure Time a little bit to some extent.
I'd agree with that.
And sort of other kind of those like cartoon series of the 2010s where it's that like, oh yeah, that's amazing that we got a show that did all these things like that and handled it all so well. Or even sort of just like like I think of fantasy books, because this is, I think, where it always starts. Is you find a book
Kaylie's
in a library.
Talk about the cats.
Yeah, you find a book in a library, or you get recommended something, and then you become obsessed with too many books about fantasy cats that have clans and fight one another and do epic battle. I'm talking about the Warriors series for anyone who doesn't know.
A friend of mine read a single page of that to me once, and I was just like, I'm very happy for you and that you still enjoy this. This was written by an AI, a primitive AI in like 2004.
This was written by 3 people. I think Aaron Hunter is a pen name for 3 different authors that were collaborating together. But like that versus, I think there were like different camps of like the kinds of books as like young readers sort of thing. Because there were people that were into warriors and sort of those adjacent kind of epic quote unquote fantasy storytelling.
Fantasy especially.
Harry Potter has its own thing. I'm not going to touch that.
Got a lot of other hangups.
But But then you have things like Percy Jackson that is currently being revisited. Like we've just wrapped up season 1 of the new series on Disney Plus. We're getting a season 2 at some point soon. They're doing like a book is going to be a season. So we did The Lightning Thief. We're going to get Sea of Monsters next.
Sure.
And like there's pieces of that's like I don't think they did the tension of the story very well, but they like got parts of the book right that the movie didn't. But something about this just still feels like cringy. And then you go back and look at the book and you're like, actually, yeah, this kind of was a little just like cringy. Yeah. But then you have some children, Ian, who pick up a series of unfortunate events. And you can read that as a 10-year-old or as a 30-year-old and still go, damn. Nobody fucking knew this was Count Olaf. What the hell's wrong with these people?
So the question for me then is it about a level of quality then? Or like, is it like the general populace saying like, that's made for kids, why are you watching it? Like, I think about things that have mainstream success. Like, let's be real. I'm still pretty shocked that the fucking Mandalorian became like a smash hit sensation. I was like, are you telling me a space western like about the extended universe of Star Wars, like the things that I was into? Are you telling me that became like the smash hit TV show? Like, I'm even a little bit
Did I just write the song of the summer?
I'm even a little bit surprised that like Game of Thrones like still like was the smash hit. Probably because it was HBO and there was a lot of sex to like get people in. Like, haha, we showed you titties. Here's spells and sorcery.
Oh,
like is it like quality? Is it like the general populace or the media saying like, hey, actually this thing is good, so you are allowed to like it, versus this other thing, like maybe be chill about that one and wait until the 4th date instead of the 1st date to talk about this?
And that's where I'm wondering, is it like a just progression that you have to go through? Because in what world are you gonna let a 12-year-old start reading Game of Thrones? Like, as you're sort of exploring, like, fantasy books and, like, things that you're interested in, like, in what world are you going to do that versus giving them something like a Harry Potter or, like...
That's a good point.
I don't know. I read, there were Kingdom Keepers, where it was this, like, again, another Disney publishing property, but it's like, hey, all the shit in the parks comes to life at night, and the villains are actually trying to take over the Disney parks. Yeah. And it was sort of one of those things that's like, as a 13-year-old, you're like, oh, that's kind of cool. And going back, you look at that and like, I don't know.
Oh, no,
there's an idea here,
I guess on the book
but
front, I guess on the book front is hard for me because, again, it's the first generation American thing. My parents never gave me like any children's media I consumed. I found by myself. Like my parents didn't give me like Warriors or whatever the fuck. My mom was like, Frankenstein, I know that word, read this. You know,
okay.
You know what I mean?
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. You know, it starts to make sense, like based on how serious of people we are, that you were reading Frankenstein and I was reading The Magic Tree House.
Was anyone a Captain Underpants kid?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
A little bit.
And that shit looked lame when I was 8.
Yeah, that's the thing. I never understood my friends that were super into those series.
I don't know.
Gibby, defend yourself.
When you're a silly little boy, like you don't realize that toilet humor is like on the lowest rung, and you're like, ha, underpants, toilet paper, and it like that's one of those things that you almost like you can wipe away the like cringe label because shut up. You can dismiss the cringe label because you say, oh, that's for kids. I think it's when you get more of the cringe label when it's a little bit more undefined. Like Steven Universe can be for kids, but it's also seemingly for like 30-year-olds who
confused and depressed 30-somethings.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's where it's just like, oh right, this is the content that would have been made for me.
Yeah.
Like as like now a queer adult, but I didn't have access to. The best we had was maybe He-Man, so you can see how well that went for us.
One I get in a lot of trouble for when I bring up in just general conversation is South Park. Or I look back on a lot of South Park, even modern South Park, and I'm kind of like, hey, is this the venue where it goes back to sincerity? Because I think it is made in sincerity, though in excessive parody. A lot of South Park, I go back and I say, hey, is this the avenue where we want to have these conversations? Isn't this a little weird that this is the entire Church of Scientology is boiled down to, hey, did you watch that one episode of South Park? The entire religion of the Mormon Church is, hey, did you watch that one episode of South Park? And it's like,
I've seen Book of Mormon twice. I'll admit it.
Yeah, exactly right. Which is made by the South Park writers.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know.
Now he's defending himself. Go.
No.
He's attacked. He's attacked.
No. I have no emotional weight with South Park. I'll admit, like I watched it a good bit when I was 14, and the movie is not bad. Like it's fun. Like, but it's not good. But it's not. It's written by 30-year-old men who are targeting an audience of anywhere between 13-year-old boys and like 21-year-old stoners. Like, I think like the intent is there. I think where it gets like worthy of criticism is when like later on, like they do try to be serious and make a point, and then they just go back to doing exactly what they were doing.
You understand this show is written by angry rich libertarians.
Yeah, exactly. Where it's funny when everything sucks, right?
Yeah.
Like there's the heart there is like so cynical that like it can't be cringe because it's just like, look at me, I'm so stupid. You can't call me cringe because that's the point, dummy.
Right.
I'm not racist because I hate everyone equally fallacy.
Yeah.
Take your fedora and off the hat rack and get out of here. Get out of my house.
No, there's something I think to the point of like what you're saying. Like I've in sort of media history lessons in microdoses, as Family Guy goes through a new phase of its existence where now people younger than us recognize it as just, I've seen clips of this on TikTok everywhere because people just repost other people's content to get views and engagement. But that's how a lot of people are getting interested or into Family Guy is I've seen these clips everywhere on TikTok and now I'm going and watching this. And so people are kind of digging into this again of like, how did this get made? Its life cycle. It was canceled, then it was brought back because people really liked seeing the reruns and syndication of it. But that idea, like, we always think of something as cringy as feeling like it's made for something younger, or like, you had said something earlier when we were talking about the books that I thought was very relevant to that. Like, you either look at something like Captain Underpants and say, oh, I'm 11. That's for like kids. That's for children. But
I'm above this. I'm going to go watch South Park at 240p on YouTube.
You either pick up something like that's like it's for, maybe you're not fully aware of it, but there's a whole category that's for young audiences, young adults.
Right.
But you find something without noticing that label and you go, oh, this is so much more grown up than that thing. And then you come back to that when you're 18 and you go, oh my God, yeah, this was for children. I was a child. I feel betrayed that it's not cool anymore, but like, whatever, I'm over it.
I feel like that is very much... Oh, sorry.
No, I'm sorry. I'm trying to like long-wind it. Like, hold on, I'm making a point, I promise. But you have that feeling of realizing something was always made for a younger, a step down, something more childish than how you actually are. Like, you always think you're so much more adult. Versus then you get these tweens that you are targeting adult animation for that demographic because it's just sex jokes and swears. And then you come back to that after your edgy phase as a teenager. You come back to that as an adult and realize that's cringe. Like there's two different levels of you're either being treated too childishly or think you were being treated childishly, or you were trying so hard to be an adult and it just was like, no, that was just stupid. Like, that didn't work.
That definitely plays into more of your perspective on like the learning phases, you know, like what those sorts of things, especially young adult media, are meant for people who are going through major changes and dealing with like severe anxiety, angst, things like that. Like, I think developmental cringe is like you said, part of life. And I think there's something to be appreciated about that in like your growth, and like you're just like, oh wow, that was so funny and embarrassing. I think the true cringe is when it's still made for an adult audience, and either it's so sincere from like an awkward perspective, or like clearly somebody thought they were like really doing something great and it's not good. Like I think about the people on like American Idol back in the early 2000s.
Oh,
who were, like,
resurfaced American Idol auditions.
I believe in myself, and I'm clearly the next great superstar. And you get a William Hung out of nowhere. Like I know that's a little bit different, but like content that's made like for like general audiences, adult and all that, and it's either due to a lack of quality or being just like one standard deviation too far for like the general public to really get into.
I think what you're describing, Gibby, is something more akin to the comedy.
Like secondhand embarrassment?
Yeah, like the comedy The Office uses.
Yeah,
where I cringe
Office.
because I'm embarrassed for this person. And the goal, at least in a highly edited show like American Idol or written show like The Office, is to be like, haha, this makes you feel weird. Isn't that funny?
Yeah.
To where
you can't stop watching. Welcome to the social car crash.
Yeah. Whereas you also get other folks. I tend to lean on this spectrum. It's like, that's weird. It makes me feel bad. I'm just going to. I think not engaged. I think all of reality TV kind of falls into that because, again, you're either experiencing that secondhand embarrassment, or you're pointing and laughing at the clowns doing the yelling and the whatever. Which, again, for some people, they can separate themselves from that and find the humor at the expense of the person being embarrassed. Or you can't separate yourself and you're like, man, this just makes me feel awful to watch. I'm going to leave. Yeah. And that's where the cringe comes in.
I guess like that's separate from like you're watching something that clearly wasn't made for you.
Yeah.
I don't think it is. I think we're describing the same, different versions of the same thing.
Maybe. Well, what I'm talking about is like the general populace would probably not be down with like a harem anime or like,
hey man,
or like maybe most shonen animes and all of that. Like,
I went to go to high school with my 6 girlfriends who I never have sex with, and my superpowers. You leave me be.
Honestly, that like it's not that far removed from The Bachelor, if we're being perfectly honest.
Really, that's a harem anime for middle
The
America.
Bachelor. These are the same picture.
Yeah, but like you also have something like musicals, which like if you get something that's super duper niche and you try to like broadcast that to a wide ranging audience, then you do get the feeling of like, buddy, I love this, you love this. Most of the country is not going to be down with this, and so we've opened ourselves up to criticism.
But it's crazy. But it's crazy because musicals, again, we're all theater kids, so when we see a mid to bad musical, we get the cringes, right? But musicals are by far the most consumed type of theater. Right? You could do a straight play and you might fill the house once. You do a musical every night.
Doesn't matter what it is. People will be there.
Because they want to come and watch people sing and dance. You know?
Yep.
Yeah. Well, I'm thinking about
bread
more from
and
the perspective
circuses.
of like,
God damn it, bread and circuses.
I'm thinking more about like the movie musicals or things like that.
The thing that like people recognize of like people love musicals. People love that idea of a musical, and or if the general audience doesn't, those musical theater kids are gonna come see a freaking musical because they're fucking nerds. They're gonna come see this, and we're also just not gonna advertise the movie as a movie musical because we can't let people know it's a musical because they're cringy.
I think that's a little tangential.
It's so confusing.
Yeah. I think that's a little tangential. A better comparison is Cats, right? Yeah, I know. Which
Cats is a unique
Cats was
thing.
always bad. It's a bad play. It's a bad movie.
We were sent a plague because of that godforsaken movie.
But where it becomes, I think we then go to the question of sincerity. Because Cats is a shit show, but it's fun to watch. It's fun to watch fit people do flips and tights.
Yeah.
And then you
So-
have Cats 2019, of which the people did not give a shit
Yeah,
about
the people
it.
didn't give a shit about it. There's not a lot of fit people doing in tights doing flips, and it's not
But
live.
you got James Corden.
Which who the fuck cares, right?
The butthole cut.
Yeah, exactly. So again, it becomes like, oh, this is a cash grab. We're trying to replicate the, hey, look, we put all your favorite toys on the shelf at the same time. Aren't you excited? And it loses that sincerity, so that even for whatever reason, the people who insist Cats is good can't defend this piece anymore.
The thing that's happening with Mean Girls right now, because I was not happy when they announced that we were getting a Mean Girls musical in 2019, but seeing clips of it, I was good. Like, it was good to know that, like, all right, I might not agree with this strategy of what do you do with this story, but it looks like a really solid piece of musical theater that high schoolers are going to love, that's going to get its own little cult following vibe because it's a retelling of Heathers in its own form of just like, how do you navigate high school? It's a relatable story. Like, there's a lot to like about and appreciate in that. Where it becomes cringy is the way that they just did this movie of the musical that is based on the original movie that's just barely 20 years old.
Yeah.
And the way that they neutered it by trying to play into this, like, oh, but it's like film in real life, so we can't be too musical-y about it, except that defeats all the purpose. You either go big or go, or like, don't do it at all.
The whole point of Mean Girls, the movie, is that it's camp as hell.
Right.
So Mean Girls, the musical, should crank that camp all the way up. But
to just sort of like cut Katie's I'm in love song from, oh my God, he's so hot, and like, wow, he's really, I love this guy too. Wow, I'm astounded and nonplussed. I sound like I had a fucking lobotomy. Like,
damn.
I don't blame the actress. I blame the direction or lack thereof that she was given.
But
like,
and again, we bring in that question,
and that's what
of
makes it cringier, I think, to watch, knowing that there's these two other versions of the same story, and for some reason, this is what you thought would work, existing between both of those worlds.
Yeah. I also
go support live musical theater. Don't go to the movies.
Please
kids.
do. Tina Fey doesn't need another house. I think that when we first brought up the topic cringe, and I'll say this and we can start to end it. I thought outside of like the fiction space. I really love asking people the question of what's an album you loved as a teenager, but you listen to now and you're like, this is kind of whack. For me, it's Lasers by Lupe Fiasco.
Yep, Lupe Fiasco. I really thought he was saying a lot.
And some of his songs he is. Shout out to Lupe Fiasco. Kick Push is still a jam. But
half shout out.
Speak out for Lupe Fiasco. But I listened to that whole album. And again, we harped on this. It's nowhere near as deep. It's nowhere near as complex as I once thought when I was on my all black everything big afro phase. At one point he rhymes been through with window as opposed to window, and I got really angry.
as a teenager, as an adult.
Yeah, as an adult.
Oh, okay. I was just like imagining like teenage, like angsty in its own way Bodio hearing that, being like, actually, you know what? Fuck
this. Tosses the CD into the
was
ocean.
in such a like, yeah, on my bullshit. Never mind. Actually, this was a mistake.
For me, I got lucky that a lot of my favorites from like my defining albums were like still good to go. Like everybody still likes Kendrick Lamar's Good Kid, Mad City. Yeah. Everybody still likes Random Access Memories by Daft Punk.
Yeah.
Yep.
Good album.
If there's any of them, I think I put a few too many hours into listening to Green Day in between the periods of like their first big album and American Idiot. Like there's somewhere in the middle there where it gets a little lost. And as a teenager, I was just like, yeah, this is still real cool. And meanwhile, even at the time when they came out with that one, I think it was Nimrod, people were just like, Green Day's kind of dying off. Only like once they got back to American Idiot and had like a revival and everything, was it just like cool that it was just like, yeah, Billy Joe Armstrong's here again. I'll listen to like some of the tracks on that and just be like, I should have taken this out of the CD player of my
We should have taken this off
Ford
the iPod
Explorer.
Shuffle playlist.
This shouldn't have been on, like, I shouldn't have desecrated the Ford Explorer from 2003 with this. This was a mistake.
The Ford Prism. Drove around in that sucker all day.
Kaylie, what's your
You know,
album of
there's a
choice?
couple things that I could say. You know, I was a big like Disney Channel like pop stars sort of kid. Like
Sure.
I love me some Jonas Brothers.
I feel like we
They-
knew this.
I love me some Hillary Duff.
Mhm.
Ali and AJ, I did almost like, oh, I've gone back and listened to it, and like there's some songs I still like that still kind of hold up. Overall, I'm not so much. But then it hit me. Not something like Panic at the Disco. Not even
Oh
that.
no, it still slaps.
Fucking Skillet.
Hey.
Oh, no.
Because
You
and
had a
here's I think sort of the icing on the
phase.
cake
Oh.
is that like I was so willing as a 12-year-old to look past that they said they were a Christian rock band because I was like,
Mhm.
no, clearly these songs are like getting at something else. It can't be that. I was one of those kids making AMVs with Skillet music.
Wow.
It took me so long to
Well-
let that go and recognize like actually
Yeah.
what it is for what it is.
Yeah.
Christian
And
screamo.
yeah. And kind of pull back in my like when I stopped running out of like I had less time to edit videos and sort of like step away from it for a little bit and come back at like 16, 17 and go, oh yeah, you know what? Never mind.
Monster.
Nope.
Monster is fine.
It's
Right, like,
only
there's-
fine in the context of the Daniel Bryan video.
Yeah.
Like, there's a couple things from, like,
SmackDown
no,
versus
but
Raw
it is-
2009, and that's why I like it.
Like it's some good like kind of that rock metal sound, but you just don't listen to the lyrics too closely.
Kaylie, let he who is without sin throw the first stone. I went with my YouTube group. I went with my youth group
YouTube
to
group.
see. I went with my Christian youth group
Uh-huh.
of Cornerstone United Methodist Church
Yo.
at the age of like 13 to see Skillet and Toby Mac in concert.
I can't give you the Toby Mac, but I will one up you that I went with one of my best friends they were going through their own like much more than I was emo phase.
Yeah.
Whereas I was sort of like the anime weeb emo phase. They were like getting into we made their mom take us to Disney when they used to do Night of Joy to see Skillet.
Oh,
Christian group shut down the park for a concert at night sort of thing, and Skillet was part of that lineup.
No.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah.
I
I think there is one picture
I thought
that
I
has
had you, but
survived of us at that event.
how many of you were wearing Converse and very tall socks?
Damn. I still do
I always
that.
wanted those, but I never
I
did.
will still do that. I will swear by it.
But I did have
I'm
like
just-
a grungy off the shoulder
Ooh,
purple
Vans.
shirt with like a short skirt that was like
Ooh.
that plaid purple and blue pattern
Yeah,
with like a lace
I kind
fishnetty
of
trim.
feel like it's too many things to try to be a ginger teenager and emo. Like somebody would have just been like, pick a lane.
Yeah, no, it's why I think after a certain point I kind of gave up. I did
Yep.
straighten my hair stiff straight in high school and do
Yep.
like under eyeliner,
yes,
and
yeah.
then halfway through high school I went, nope, it's enough of that. It's time to stop.
You have the hot topic.
You just
phase.
put the Avril Lavigne album in the garbage and light it on fire.
That still holds up,
No, it
and she's
doesn't.
coming to Buffalo
No, it
this
doesn't.
year, and
Yeah.
I'm gonna try to see her maybe if tickets are outrageously expensive.
That's
It's nice to
fun.
know that we never truly change.
Right.
Nope. That's the moral of the story all along.
Nothing is
Once
cringe.
you're cringe for life. Nothing is cringe if everything is cringe.
Nobody just wants to watch The Office in the NFL.
Ugh.
Let's all admit there's a little weeb in all of us.
And that's been this episode of the Liberal Artist Podcast. Thank you so much for joining us on this very strange journey. Follow us on our socials at LibArtistPod, Jesus, on Instagram. Just that one.
That's all where we exist.
Just that one. Nothing else. Nowhere
Just
else.
there. Nowhere else.
Nope.
Join us next time when we just like bury ourselves in trash humor. I don't know.
You know who else buries themselves in trash?
Days without incident, -1.
Peace.
The Liberal Artists Podcast premieres every other Thursday on your favorite podcasting platform. The show is hosted by Bodio, Kaylie Horowitz, and Andy Gibson. You can find the show at LibArtistsPod on Instagram and Twitter. Thanks to White Hot for performing the theme song Reflect, which can be found on freebeats.io. Now, I'm off to go exploring, and maybe, just maybe, I'll find a sheep that I can call my own. Good day.
Fucking mad at the NFL, dude. I cared about football for one weekend.
We're getting the Bubble Bowl next weekend for the Super Bowl, though. We're getting sweet victory before the Super Bowl.
I don't care. I don't want to watch Taylor Swift reacts to.
They hate our towns, Bo. They hate the towns I'm loyal to of Baltimore and Detroit.
If the 49ers lose, I'm throwing Kaylie off a building.
Oh.